Walk with me. So if you ever drop by my place out here in Pacific Palisades, in my family room, just to the left of my television, there's a shelf that has a ton of photo books. My wife and I try to do them every year, a collection of all kind of the moments and memories, the experiences, every big trip. And if you go back to the very, very, very first book that we ever did together, and you flip open the cover right there on the very first page, there's a quote that I wrote when I was maybe 19, 20 years old. It's kind of a philosophy I like to bring into my life. And I want to share with you what that is in a minute. But before I get to what that quote is, what's reminding me of this conversation is I just got back from Cancun a few weeks ago. Karis and I just celebrated our 10-year wedding anniversary. 24 years together. Let that sink in for a minute. A lot of people go, huh? What? You waited how long? But had an amazing trip out in Cancun. Had a bunch of very close friends and family members come out with all the families and the kids, and it was just an amazing time. And we chose Cancun specifically for our 10-year anniversary. Not just because it's, logistically simple, easy to get in and out of no matter where you're coming from. And the whole all-inclusive kids clubs. Kids clubs are a lifesaver in this season of life. And all the things. But more so because it's kind of a special destination for Karis and I. It was actually the first trip we ever went on together. It was the first time out of the country both of us had ever been on a trip to really see and experience a different culture. And it was a game changer. It was a life changer. I remember back, it's crazy to think maybe I was 19, 20 years old when we went with my family. It was the first time my parents had ever taken a trip out of the country with all of us together, my sister, myself, and all of growing up, which is just crazy to think that I was probably 19, 20 years old before I kind of had the stamp on the passport. I look at Grayson and how many stamps on his passport he has now, let alone he had in his first year or 2 years of life. Just crazy perspective. And I remember that experience vividly. Getting a boat for the day, not a huge boat, a little boat, and going out on the water and seeing the color of the Caribbean, so different than the Pacific, going out to Isla de Mujeres back when it was uninhabited, and having this freshly caught fish and the culture, and went into Xcaret back when it was just one park, the original, seeing the cultural show. And I remember just loving the experience, so much joy, so much perspective of wow, the world is a big world. Me growing up in Newbury Park, Thousand Oaks area, kind of suburbia, amazing place to grow up. But no matter where you're from, if you kind of spend all your life in one area, you're shielded from a real perspective of what's out there. And the minute you start expanding outside that zone, the more you see, the more you realize there is to see. And the more you want to see. At least that's the way I feel. And that trip was a shift for me. I knew instantly that I wanted to do more of that for the rest of my life. See new things, create new experiences, have moments and memories, gather perspective outside what's possible on just a day-to-day. And I remember going back and we did the photo book. And we did a photo book of kind of all the experiences up until that point. And I remember writing something that I was just inspired to share on the inside of that first book. And I wrote, "The story of our lives are just the pages of experiences we choose to create." And I'll always remember that, and that's been a principle ever since, that the story of our life at the end of the day is really the pages, the collection of our experiences, our moments, our memories. And that last piece is one of intention, right? That we choose, because we do choose to create moments and experiences. And if we don't design our life with that intention, we'll find that the default mode doesn't lend itself to collecting a whole lot of them. So it is an intention, it is a choice. And ever since that moment, I've done my best. Some seasons better than others. Sometimes I'm more on than not. That's the truth for everything with all of us. To be intentional about collecting, creating moments and memories. So it's cool to go back to Cancun kind of, 24 years later with my kids, watching them go through the experiences. They've been talking about it ever since. Getting a boat for my family and friends, a little catamaran yacht, cruising to the same island, and putting more moments and memories in my memory bank, in my family's memory bank, and what I know will be in my kids' memory bank. So it was a cool moment. And then thinking about everything in between. I've been blessed and able to do, but by design, by choice, by intention. Because of that shift I had when I was 19, 20 years old on putting the importance and the priority, the intention on creating those experiences. And I've brought that in my own life and have been blessed to see a lot of the world and still crave with the same amount of desire, seeing new, experiencing novelty, going places for the first time. I love it just as much today as I have. And that's the cool thing about firsts and collecting firsts, is the excitement of a first is always the same when it's a first. It's like the same thing when you were very first, right, at that age, going to that place that had that shift for you. And that's why I love putting myself in environments where I intentionally kind of collect firsts and create that feeling, create that memory. I've had a chance to collect firsts all over the place, and there's still so much of the world, the majority of the world, that I have yet to get to, and I look forward to checking off as many as I can in the time that I have, right? And that passion has spilled over into my career, into my business. Most of you guys know my backstory. I created a company that Vi means life. The mission behind the company I co-founded, the mission that I wrote right in my early 20s of what life means in relation to that mission was about collecting experiences and relationships. My favorite thing was always sharing that part of the mission of how life at the end of the day, right? It's the experiences we collect and the relationships we cultivate. That is our life. That is our timeline. Right? At the end of the day, you're gonna have two dates and a dash. The date you were born, the date that you die, and that dash in between. What is the dash in between at the end of the day? But a collection of memories and moments of the experiences and relationships that we cultivated. At the end of the day, that's all we have. That's all that remains. So for me, it very much, is a philosophy of how to approach life. And I brought that in my business with Vi. For a few years, we had fun and with the another platform called Live that was all about creating moments and experiences and getting people together and creating first before pandemic shut that one down for the world, you know, and even now with my current focus with Prove It, being able to, you know, introduce better trips and create that same intention, that same energy, and watch the moments of joy as people experience first. No matter what I do in my life, it's always going to be a part of what I do because it's a part of who I am, and it's a part of life that I think everybody should experience. And you might ask the question, well, like, why? If you really think about why should prioritizing experiences, moments and memories really be something that we put at the forefront, really be an intention of what we do every single day? Because it's not the norm. You may sit here and say, oh, you know, this sounds like something I've heard before. I've heard this from you before. But the reality is it's not the norm. It's not the norm of the expectation we create. It's not the norm of what we're quote unquote supposed to do. It's not the norm of what people really spend their time and their energy doing. If you were to go look at your calendar and your bank account over the last 12 months, 24 months, 36 months, and I point to those two things because where your calendar is, that's your time. Where your bank account is, that's your money. Where your time and your money go, that speaks more than anything you can say to me right now or say to yourself. That's your priorities. And if you were to look at where your time is and where your money is, where your calendar has been, where your bank account has been, and you were to go look at the last 12, 24, 36 months, where would experiences fall on your value list, your priority list? It's an interesting question. It's an interesting exercise. And then it begs the question, where do you want them to fall? For most of us and for most people, our money goes into things, right? You can quantify that however you want, things. And there are a certain amount of things that we need, right, to have a comfortable life. There are a certain amount of things that we want, you know, because they make things easier in the moment. But for the majority of things, at the end of the day, there's very few things we actually need, and there's very few things that actually make a meaningful difference on how we live life every day. There are some things, don't misunderstand me, right? But so often we get pushed into prioritizing our time and energy on gathering more things. And here's the challenge I've always had with things. Doesn't matter what the thing is, the thing gets old. When you have it, right, the minute you have it, that moment of fleeting joy when you got it, it goes away, right? Things lose their luster, they lose their shine, they lose them quickly. It doesn't matter how big or nice or special of a thing is. Most things, they just become things. They get old over time. Here's the other thing about things. There's always a better thing. As soon as you get the thing, you want the next better thing. You know, and it's an addiction. You know, marketing and media has figured it out. They got us, right? There's always the next evolution. You buy one thing, you keep one thing, you don't use the thing is now an obsolete thing because now there's the new thing. And that's true for everything. And we start to collect things. I've watched a lot of the minimalist philosophy. I've read a lot of the books. I'm fascinated by it. I don't think I could ever live that lifestyle, but sometimes I wish I could. I value and respect it. But I do think there's something to just the more things you have, the more space they take up, the more weight that it just puts on you. It's hard to physically define, but it's something you can feel. Like, you know, you feel so much better when you get rid of the clutter. You feel so much better when you release the things, right? It's like a weight that's lifted. And the more things that you gather, the more weight that's there. It's hard to describe, but am I crazy or can you feel that? Right? So often we put money into things instead of experiences. Here's the other thing about things, right? The joy or the feeling, i.e. dopamine release when you got it, right? It's fleeting. It's short. It doesn't last. And for most things, our feeling of joy we get from them diminishes over time. In other words, it's the highest when we get it, right? And then from that point forward, all it does is go down. Now you contrast those to experiences, right? Taking and investing into an experience, going somewhere you haven't been, doing something you haven't done, trying something you haven't tried, and doing it with people you care about. Yes, there's merit to doing it yourself, right? But doing it with other people, there's something about a collective or shared experience. You being in that present moment with others, feeling and seeing and experiencing the same thing. It creates an amplification, a multiplication for both and all individuals right, in that shared experience, and you put the same investment into an experience, you have that moment, you have that memory forever. And tell me if I'm crazy, or tell me if you feel the same way. Those memories and those moments actually get better over time. It's so fun to look back and talk about those moments. How often do you sit around the kitchen table or the fire pit, or, you know, the social circle of friends and family, and like your favorite moments come up? And how often do you reminisce about those moments? And the stories never get old. They just get better and better, talking about that one time and that one place and how that one thing happened, and joy and smiles and energy get created. See, the value of things go down over time. The value of experiences, of the memories, actually go up over time. They don't get replaced. There's not an X, there's not a new. It maintains its value. You know, it's interesting, right, when you think about that. And that's why I think it's worth investing, right, allocating into experiences. And it starts with intention. Now, don't misunderstand me, right? I don't think we should be, you know, I don't think we should be unintentional with our income. I don't think we should be, right, ignorant with our income. I don't think we should be naive with our income. Right? I think there's got to be something to be said for a feeling of financial stability, a feeling of financial security. And I put a feeling because it's all relative, right? For some of us, that number that makes us feel safe and secure is different. It's all relative. But as long as we have a feeling of security, I think there's confidence in that. You got to have enough to live. You got to have enough to give you a runway. If you have kids and a family, you want to have enough to make sure that your family's taken care of. And yeah, you know, I hesitate to use the term retirement. I don't even know if that's a thing anymore, but you want to have money put away for your health and as you get older. Like, I think there's merit to all of that. And it's important to all of that. But I wouldn't swing so far to your pendulum that you're saving everything for the quote unquote future and not investing in the experiences of today. Because at the end of the day, you think about it, time goes on, and your physical ability even to have and enjoy experiences over time gets less and less and less. I don't mean to be scary or morbid. I'm just here to state the truth. So often I meet individuals that are saving for the rainy day, and they save for their life, that they never forget to enjoy the sunny day, the sunny day. And at the end of the day, when you're looking back, whatever that may be, the moments and the experiences are all that you're really going to have. Like, that is what life is. So I think there's got to be a happy balance, in my opinion, to shifting our time and our resources away from things onto experiences, and also allocating our time and our resources in addition to the future into the present, right, into today. And the last thing I'll say, I'm talking finances because, you know, that's what it takes to get to a place you haven't been, right? That's what it takes a lot of times to do something you haven't done, but it doesn't always take that. I'll also say that the intention can be brought to what you do every single day. There's so many moments and experiences that can be created within and around what you do every single day, if that is the approach you choose to take. It's a philosophy, it's a lens. It's how do we take this present moment and make it a memory, right? How do we put something into it, an energy, an experience that turns it into something that will be remembered tomorrow, not a minute that just goes by or another day that just goes by. My philosophy on one of the reasons that time seems to speed up as we get older is, for most people, we stop creating first. We stop being present. We stop chasing novelty. We stop experiencing adventure. And when we do those things, time slows back down. It's when we get stuck on autopilot doing the same thing, the rat race, Groundhog Day, that time tends to speed up because we're not experiencing or creating new. We can slow that down with an intention. And yes, sometimes it takes an investment, but sometimes it just takes a will, right? It just takes an approach. It just takes an attitude in what we're doing. So that's why on that book, on that first page, I wrote this story of our life, or just the pages of experiences we choose to create, to remind myself both that our life at the end of the day is just a collection of those moments, and it is a choice, and it is an intention to create and collect those moments that are to be remembered. At the end of the day, that dash is that collection. Or put really simply, that our life is a sum of our experiences. That's it. It's not the sum of the bank account. It's not the sum of the real estate properties. It's not the sum of the assets. It's not the sum of the will or the estate or the trust. It's not the sum of any of those numbers. is the sum of the experiences we choose to create. So I wanted to bring that with you, top of mind, coming off Cancun, kind of the place that first allowed me to have that perspective and create that shift. The power of an experience to create that single shift, and how that really changed the trajectory of my life, on where I've chosen to spend a lot of my time and my energy, where I've chosen to bring a lot of my career, right? And a lot of my intention. And not just for me, because I love opening those doors and seeing people feel that alive in others when they have those experiences. For me, it's the best, it's the thing. But I don't think it's just me. I think it's something that's in all of us. So as a top of mind, I wanted to share that with all of you guys. So what's the bottom line? Hey, our life is the sum of our experiences. The story of our life are pages of experience we choose to create. Let's bring that shift into our intention every single day, and the little things we do with where we're at, and the big things we choose to do as we allocate our time and our financial resources in the future. Let's make sure we have that balance, and let's make sure we're putting as many things, as many moments in that dash as we can. Because when it's all said and done, and we never really know when that's going to be, I think that's one of the things that matters most. You know what? I'm also excited the sun is back out in Southern California. Like, someone turned it back on. It's been a weird year, people. Some of you guys are like, it's been a while since you've been live. Yeah, because it's been raining and gray here in Southern California. So I'm excited to be back on the trail, back connecting with y'all. If you got value from this, please let me know below. If you got something to share, put it in the comments, right? Or leave a review on the podcast. I read every single one of them and appreciate it. And hey, I know there's someone that probably comes to your mind or your heart in today's conversation. Someone that does this really, really well, you want to share because you know it'll align, or someone that needs more of this in their life that you want to share. Tag them, share the link. We appreciate it. Till the next time we walk together, hope all of you create a shift and gather some more moments this week that you're going to remember the next day and the next year and the next decade, because they're worth it. That's what it's about. Till the next time, take care, everybody.